Fantasy football fans, here is an okay idea for a 32 team fantasy league on Sleeper. I've already talked a little bit about some leagues like this, and we've got another one to discuss. This was one, again, that was about to just die on the vine, and I think a lot of leagues in Sleeper do that. So maybe you're the type that'll just reach out to someone and say, hey, make me a commish, and I'll see if I can, keep this thing going, which I'm that kind of person. And so I decided to try and keep this thing afloat. What we did, and I was pretty systematic about this, I went in and any team that had a deleted account as an owner, I removed that from the league. I think there was only one of them. Can't remember exactly. Then I started kind of checking, the chat to see who's been looking at the chat, who's been doing transactions, who's been kind of making things work. And I just kind of put out a general question. I was like, hey, do we want to do the draft pretty soon after the NFL draft? And I made a spreadsheet. I made this spreadsheet here, and then I also made this spreadsheet here. And I kept track of all the owners on every team. And what I did is I did have a column over here, which I've since gotten rid of. But I basically made a little active check, yes or no. And if I saw them, I would put yes, next to their owner. And so if I saw them voting on a poll, if I saw them, looking at the chat, you can see the little icons down at the bottom. That's a tough way to do it because they're really small for old people like me. But I found that we were about halfway. And so what I did was the ones that I had not, after about a week, the ones that I had not seen any activity from, I actually sent them, I tagged them in the chat, in the league chat. Hey, are you out there? Give me a sign of life. And all they had to do was just, say something in the chat, direct message me or whatever. And then after about a week, and I gave it quite some time, I started deleting accounts. And by deleting accounts, I wasn't really deleting them from Sleeper, but I was removing them from the league. And so we were down to 16 out of 32. And some people started getting a little discouraged. And so I said, send out the link. I don't want to put the link on the public forum, if you will, on Sleeper, because you end up getting a lot of trolls that way. And their only job is to come in and mess up your league. So I really didn't want to do that. And I got a few people who brought some folks in. I think we got up to 18 maybe. We got to within about 4 or 5 days of our scheduled draft. And so I decided to go in and start posting on the leagues that I'm in the link to join the league. And man, the response was overwhelming. We got a bunch of people. In fact, I even had 2 people who wanted in and it was full. So we went from 18 to 32 and I had 2 extra. And I told those guys, I said, I would be really shocked if we don't have a couple of people who still end up dropping off. And sure enough, we did. So I got those 2 guys a spot as well. So we had 32. We were about 3 or 4 days from our draft, but I left it alone. I didn't try and get into a let's draft early situation. And then I set up the draft. Now, the thing you need to know is these rosters, as they were constructed, were from last year. So this was set up at the end of last year. We tried to renew it, and a lot of people fell off. A lot of people weren't active, whatever. We've never really played a game in season with this. So I am the Steelers in this league, and what I did was a couple of things. I set up the draft order based upon the real life 2026 draft order. If a team had traded away their pick, like the Bengals, in real life, they did not trade it away in our league. They still had Hendricks in our league because we set up our rosters last year when Hendricks was a Bengal. So there was no need to do any of the first round pick trades from real life to fantasy. So everybody got a first round pick if they wanted it. And basically you just went down the 1 through 32, starting with the Raiders and ending with the Seahawks and everybody in between. So the Steelers were 21. in the time that I had accumulated the Steelers players in this roster, I hadn't really done many moves. I have another league, a 32-team league, where I had the Steelers, and I actually did do a lot of trading and moving in that league. I have A.J. Brown on that team, which I think is something the Steelers could have looked at doing, but in real life. But in this case, not so much. So we went through the draft. I actually contemplated maybe trading back a little bit. I never did. I just kept my 4 picks at the 21st pick of every round. And the people that I picked were here. So my first round pick was Boston for the Browns. The fact that he made it down to 21 was a little bit of a shock to me. And this team definitely needs wide receivers. I don't have Michael Pittman on this roster because he's still on the Colts. The next round came around. I was thinking about moving back, but Hurst was there for the Bucks, so I took Hurst. Then the third round came around. I took Moore because, again, T.J. Watt's getting a little old. A couple of those guys on the defensive front, and the Steelers are getting old. And then in the fourth and final round of this draft, I picked Nussmeier. I do think we need a quarterback. I wanted Alar to be there. He was not. He got picked about 10 picks before this one. So I'll take Nussmeier, and I'm fine with that. Then, once the draft was over, so as far as draft settings go, just know this. I think an hour is plenty of time. I know we've got plenty of time until the NFL season starts, but those 4-hour, 8-hour, 24-hour clocks, I think there are people out there who just like to run down the clock. And I'm not one that, necessarily appreciates that. So we did a 1-hour timer, which on Sleeper, if you do 1 hour, you still get the overnight pause, which I do think you should do, the overnight pause. And I think an hour is plenty. Someone can go in, check their, see when they're up, put their queue up together, make sure that they have available players if they can't check back in. And I think that it's all well and good. Then, after the draft, we set up a waiver period. So on the settings in Sleeper, and I can go show a separate video on this, but you can go in and set waivers for every single day. And I think during the off season, you should do that. I don't think there should be any, especially after a draft, there should not be any first come, first serve, just pick up players. You should have a waiver. You should have a FAB, FAAB, which is free agent acquisition budget. And it should run every day. So I put in like 20 transactions, and I ended up picking up some other people, and that's these FAB guys here that you see down here at the bottom. 2 guys that I picked up in FAB, Borkircher and Jackus, I actually sent a chat out. And again, since I'm a commissioner, I feel like I'm kind of obligated to make sure everybody gets who they want if they really want them. And the guy, I said, hey, look, if I got someone you wanted, send me an offer. And so I got a 4th round pick next year for both of these guys, which I think is fine. After we've just had a 4-round draft, they did not get picked. This guy wants them. I just picked them up because they were there. He can have them, and I'll take the 4th round pick. So I picked them up on the waiver wire and then traded them for a 4th round pick. And I do think the draft next year is going to be much better. So I'll take some late picks. I got Wetjen, who's a Steeler. I also got... there was a rookie defensive back that I got for Everett for the Steelers also. So those were 2 kind of priorities for me because I really wanted to get, some Steelers specific depth pieces. But then I also picked up a bunch of folks from some other teams. Roush is a rookie tight end for the Bears. Klein is a rookie tight end for the Texans. And this team does need tight ends, I think. So I love getting Dennis Sutton here for the Packers. I feel like I'm really, really young and I'm really, really deep. We still don't have an answer on Aaron Rodgers playing for the Steelers. I do have him on this roster, but I really am, as a Steeler fan, hoping Will Howard gets his shot. If he sucks, then we have a great draft pick next year. If he's great, then he's great. And I also think Alar has a chance to be, pretty good too. So anyway, I've got my roster now kind of full with young prospects, in addition to my really kind of hardline Steelers starters, if you will. And Really can't complain. The other step I did take, I had some old guys, Marquez Valdez Scantling, and I had just some guys that used to be Steelers. Whenever we started this, they were on the Steelers roster, but they weren't anymore. So there was one guy went to Minnesota, I think, something like that. And so I actually did send out trade offers for Fab. I ended up getting $25 in Fab for 3 different players, 10, 10, and 5, that are no longer Steelers. And I really didn't feel like that I needed them. If I'm just going to cut them anyway, then why not? I also did send out 2 other offers that they did not accept. And so one I decided to go ahead and cut, but the other one I decided to keep. And I think that was the Vikings guy, but I don't remember exactly. So anyway, bottom line is this. We've got now a pretty solid roster here. We did not go super flex. We actually went with quarterback. If you're doing a 32-team league, almost makes more sense to just have a super flex due to bye weeks and that sort of thing. But we're going to try quarterback. I think everyone had a shot to get one, and I tried to trade to people that wanted them and stuff like that. So if I picked them up off the waiver wire or whatever. Taxi squad is pretty full with quarterbacks. I picked up 3 rookie quarterbacks off the waiver wire, in addition to having Nussmeier, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. I do think, having Metcalf here as my solid wide receiver 1, I can kind of fill in the rest, although I think we're starting 3 wide receivers. Yeah, it says right here 3 wide receivers, which seems a little crazy to me, but that's how it was set up before I got it. I do like the idea of picking up Wetjen, and I'm thinking about doing some return yardage points. I haven't approached that yet with the league, but I think that's something we're going to do. This guy retired, so we don't need to worry about him. I'm really hoping Roman Wilson can kind of figure something out, but I feel like it's do or die for that guy, for sure. Boswell just got a big old extension for the kicker. I actually did put in a waiver request for a kicker and got outbid. I was thinking about picking up an extra one just in case, because I knew somebody would need one at some point, and I got outbid on that kicker. So I'll stick with Boswell. I'm fine with that. This is pretty much my solid defensive group here, and then these are all my bench guys, and we'll kind of see how that goes in the end. Lots of discussion about the schedule, which, by the way, I think is coming out tonight. We are going to try, number 1, to play every division opponent twice, so we're going to keep the same NFL divisions, and we're going to try the first 4 weeks of the season to play 4 division games, because there's no players on a bye or anything weird like that. Then once the bye weeks start, which is usually week 5, we are going to start working in bye weeks for our franchises. So even though I have players that are not Steelers, when the Steelers are on a bye, I'm dead in the water. There's nothing I can do really, because I'm starting mostly Steelers. So when the Steelers are off, I will be off. And as is the case, hopefully weeks 5 through 11. We get everybody their bye week when their actual in real life franchise has their bye week. The problem is this: not every team will have their bye week during those times. So week 12, I think no one has a bye week. And I think what we're going to probably try to do is do a little wild card playoff round on week 12. Then, depending on who has byes week 13 and 14, we can maybe work in another wild card round if we need to. We've got some flexibility there, basically. But if you're one of the top seeds, if you're one of the really good teams, you're going to be kind of sitting for maybe weeks 12, 13, 14 until the actual playoffs start week 15. But number 1, I'm going to try to get everybody to play 2 division games against each opponent in their division, and try to get those games done quickly before injuries, before bye weeks and everything else make it more difficult. The next thing we're going to do is, if I'm the AFC North, I'm going to play against a particular division. It should be pretty easy when the NFL schedule comes out to see what division they are playing in conference, and we'll try to play that same division. So 6 games in division, 3 teams twice, and then 4 games outside of division, inside of conference against another division, and a bye week. That's 11 weeks. And then we'll have some anomalies we got to worry about, like I said, with weeks 12 and 13, or 13 and 14. And, we'll kind of figure it out from there, really. But it's been an interesting startup. It's been an interesting takeover because I've had to kind of, figure it out with some guys who set it up, but then decided they just didn't want to do it anymore. It's called Madden Style. I don't know that I had ever even said that, but back in the day, if you did the franchise mode on Madden, it was always kind of cool to get your team to the Super Bowl, and that's what we're trying to do here. I intend to compete as far as this team goes, but I am okay if it stinks because next year's quarterback class is going to be pretty good, and I feel like we can probably figure out the Steelers' quarterback woes next year in the draft. There was some talk about tanking. I'm going to do draft order based upon max points possible, lowest to highest, and that way there's no lot. I'm not going to do a lottery. I didn't want to do all that, but I said, look, let's just, if a team really just was not able to score points, then they're the ones who probably need the higher draft pick. And I'm also thinking about, seriously, if somebody starts someone on a bye week, they lose a draft position. And maybe every time they do that, they lose a draft position. So even if they were supposed to be at pick 15 or 16, if they did a couple of weeks of putting a bye week player in a spot, then they lose. They go down to 16 or 17 or 17 and 18 or whatever. So I'm going to probably keep track of that on my spreadsheet here. And I thought about doing like a point system or something, but I think it's just easier if you get caught really doing, leaving an IR player in your starting lineup or a bye week player or something like that in a starting lineup, then you need to probably face a penalty for that. And honestly, you should not get, that's my whole point, is you should not get the number one pick simply for being incompetent. The number one pick to me should be the team that really had some tough breaks with injuries, really tried, really set their lineup every week, and were just bad. And that's the one that should probably get the benefit of the first round pick, or the number one pick. So I'll keep you all updated on the Madden Style draft order. I think in the end, this one's going to be a pretty good one. I still don't know how having the actual quarterback instead of the Superflex is going to work out. I feel like maybe going into the next year we might have to just go Superflex instead of quarterback. But here's a draft, by the way, I've got coming up this weekend. Pretty excited about that. But let's go down here, Madden Style. I was actually going to say what we could do is take a look at the draft results. This was pretty shocking. Jeremiah Trotter, I think, went with the second pick, which I got to be honest, even in a 32-team league, I feel like quarterback's kind of important. I feel like maybe we should have Josiah Trotter taken as the second pick. So that must just be a Tampa Bay fan or a Trotter fan. But Mendoza went all the way down here to 1-5, and then there were people thinking Mendoza should have went lower. I was shocked. I just bided my time, and like I said, I waited down here toward pick 21, and I got Denzel Boston. Notice there was a little run on wide receivers right after I did that, and I've got to be honest, I think Boston's going to be fine. If you're getting Cooper up here and Lemon up here, here's Tyson and Concepcion, who's Boston's teammate now, was picked third. And I'm not convinced that he's necessarily the answer. So I got Boston, I got Hurst in the second, I got Moore, and then I got Nussmeier. I had to pull over, and I was driving down the mountains in Colorado, and so it was my turn on the notifications on my phone, and so I had to pull over into the rest area and make the Nussmeier pick. Little surprised at this green pick here at the end, by the way, but I really had Heidenreich on my free agent acquisition list. I was really upset when he got picked right at the end. But there is the draft as it occurred. 32 teams, 4 rounds. And yeah, it was really fun, and it's kind of helping me get ready for some of my smaller leagues, my 12 team leagues. I've got a couple of 16 team leagues. Those seem easy once you do a 32 team, that's for sure. So that's where we're at with the Madden Style League, and my hope is that I can post some updates from week to week and let you know how that is going on. You guys stay safe out there, and I'll check back in soon.